Today, we're branching out a little bit and taking a first look at RiME. RiME is a game by Tequila Works that has quite a fair bit of interesting history when it comes to the developers behind it and the release. It was initially greenlit by Microsoft, then bought out by Sony eventually after it was dropped, and now picked back up by Tequila Works. Because of that, it also had different release plans. Now it is released on multiple platforms actually. The game is available for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows or PC, and the Nintendo Switch as well. So, what is RiME? It's somewhat of an atmospheric puzzle game. I think those words describe it best. It's a bit of an adventure game, but mostly it is a puzzle game. You have different sorts of puzzles, and a lot of it revolves around the whole vibe that the game gives off. If I had to compare it to other games, it would probably be best compared to Journey, which I have not played, and Abzu, which I've played. Those follow the same theme of an open space with a little bit of exploration, but generally a streamlined format to them, and the focus on the atmosphere, the visuals, with the puzzles being what guides you through the game. In regards to graphics, some other games that would be similar would be Zelda's Breath of the Wild and Gigantic, even though this is a completely different playstyle genre, obviously. Another game that I found some traits on this one is Assassin's Creed. Just when it comes to the climbing style, the mechanics are quite similar there. I think that should give you a decent idea of how this game fits in with other games. Now let's talk a little bit about how the game introduces you to itself. After some very nice appealing intro animations, you end up on an island and your character initially is laying on the ground, then slowly gets up and starts limping around a little bit. Then after a while he can walk again and you can freely discover what's around you and explore the island. From there on you get led to a certain area where you will find some riddles, and that's basically from which point on the game starts guiding you. While initially you don't know the controls, you will learn them pretty quickly, or you look them up beforehand through the controls menu, pretty obvious. Not much else is disclosed to you either. You don't know why you're there, you don't know what your character is, what he's doing, or anything like that. You just see certain things that kind of point out the obvious that you have to go there for some reason, and you gotta work with it. I don't want to spoil too much of the riddles, I will just say that most of them are very self-explanatory. You find out quickly which mechanics are behind them, and then just try to solve them. With this fundamentals of the game introduced to you, I would like to jump into the pros, neutral points and cons of the game for me personally. Let's begin with the good side, the pros. First of all, the visuals are simply stunning. They're outright amazing. I love this style. I love how the game looks during the daytime. I love how it looks during the nighttime. All these different effects that make it stand out and are really what initially caught my attention. I am honestly not a big fan of most puzzle games, they simply bore me too much, but this one really caught me just because of the visuals. Solving puzzles becomes so much nicer when everything around you looks really nice, and you can literally stand there for a moment sometimes and just look around you and be like, wow, these designs are so cool, these visuals are so cool, this is so nicely made. And I'd like to point out that the graphics that I have are by far not the best that this game could run. It's literally just my old PC not being good enough for them. Otherwise, this game will look even better. The same goes for the animations. They look really smooth, really nice, really just what you want from a game, really polished. However, to create the amazing atmosphere of this game, there's another factor that comes in, and that's audio. Both the music as well as the sounds in the game are very much fitting for the theme of the game. They feel really right, feel really good. And there are some interesting tiny perks. For example, your character can yell, and depending on what he yells at, the yell will change. If you yell at a boar, he will yell louder and more aggressive, I guess. Whereas if he is interacting with some other object, he may just giggle a little bit or something like that. It's these tiny little things that make you smile in the moment and make you see how much detail has been put into this game. Another pro for me is the intuitiveness of RiME. It is very self-explanatory in how you play it, and most of the interactions are very much straightforward and will not take you long to get used to. And same goes for how things are controlled and so on, and I think that's very important for a game like that. Another nice feature is a help mechanic. There's a little fox in the game that will start guiding you at some point, and when you get stuck on a riddle too long, he will sometimes pop up and help you by showing you where you have to go. This can obviously also be a little bit annoying if you're still trying to figure out the riddle and you don't want the help, but generally I think it's a nice touch just to point you in the right direction. From a mechanical standpoint, the controls are very smooth, they work out very well. I had no really frustrating moments where I felt like the controls in themselves were bad, and there's also a control option for those who prefer to play with a controller. All in all, I would say the biggest plus for me, aside of these factors in themselves, is one that can more be described by what the game gives you, and that's how incredibly relaxing it is. Usually after a game I'm either a little bit salty, a little bit angry, a little bit happy, depending on what kind of game it is. But after this game I felt so relaxed. I was just chilling, like, alright, that's a good game, I enjoyed that. And that definitely goes down in my book for positive sides, because I feel like there are not many games that really allow you to completely unwind. Usually there's some action, some reaction that's required, whereas in RiME you can literally do anything whenever you want, pretty much. From this point on, let's talk about the neutral points. The first one is a duration. This is something that other people I know have criticized, that the game is very short. I think it's very short if you just rush through it, though I haven't made it to the end yet, so I don't want to give it too much of a judgment here. Though it's very obvious that you can explore a lot more if you look for all the extra, basically achievements, let's call them like that, all the extra gimmicks that you can pick up, all the extras. If you do that, then I feel like you would spend longer on the game, much longer, but that's up to you depending on how you want to play it. I will say though that I can see this being an issue for some. If you pay a decent amount for a game, then you're expecting quite a few hours out of it. Another neutral point is that there is no dialogue, no interaction with other characters that has any kind of spoken part to it, and that the background story requires you to pretty much go out of your way for at least some parts of it. You have to do the additional exploration, you have to find all these extra gimmicks, otherwise you will probably miss out on a fair bit of it. And that's something that I'm okay with, but I can see some people not liking that too much, because if you play through the game just questioning what the story is even about, you might get a little bit annoyed at some point. The last neutral point is that death in this game exists, but is absolutely not punishing. The developer does not want you to feel like you get punished in any regard for death, for trying out stupid things, so I've tried out a few stupid things and just let my character die here and there when I try to jump into the water from too high up or something like that, and you will just get reset to where you died, so it's pretty simple. Obviously, a Duke Sloth video wouldn't be a Duke Sloth video if we didn't talk about the cons as well. And here are the negative points. The parts in the story that are not entirely self-explanatory can become frustrating. This happened to me twice. Now, like I said, I'm not an avid puzzle game player, so obviously that's a difference there. But there was at least one part where I was like, right, I did not know this and it wasn't really obvious to me. Obviously, in the end, that's a matter of how much you play something like that or how smart you play it. But it was worth pointing out to me that I feel like, especially in the beginning, sometimes guiding the player a little more can help. The second minus is that in some situations, not often, usually the camera is free, but when the camera is forced, the controls become really awkward. The camera angles are kind of weird and then the controls get shifted. So for example, usually if you were to climb up on a cliff, then you would press up plus the spacebar. But in some situations, because of the camera angle being different, you have to press left and spacebar to go up and things like that. That is just annoying to me and I don't really see why it was necessary. Obviously, it gives you some different angles of looking at the world, which is nice, but I don't see why the controls had to be shifted in this weird way for it. Another big minus for many is the price. The game is between $35 and 35 euros depending on where you are, which is a lot for your typical puzzle game. Now, it does have very nice graphics and it probably has some more effort put into it than your usual $20 puzzle game, but I can see why the price would not be appealing for many people, especially with a relatively short playtime. When it comes to the description of the game, especially on Steam, it can be a bit misleading. The descriptions sound more like it's an open world kind of game, when it's really not that much. Yes, there's some exploration in certain areas where you can find additional things, but in the end the game is very, very streamlined, very straightforward and pushing you directly to the next goal. Also with a fox that guides you around and basically wants you to follow him at all points, which kind of felt a little counterintuitive to me when you promote the game as something that is about exploration. You have this fox who's just telling you basically not to search for secrets or anything around, but follow him to the next point at all times. So that kind of doesn't really add up, but it's just a description that could be updated in my opinion. The criticism that many had is the optimization issues, especially with newer graphics cards and so on. That didn't affect me at all. My PC is, like I said, really bad, and considering that the game ran really smoothly. But obviously, for the high-end PCs, it's more frustrating if it doesn't run smoothly on the highest settings on them. This is known to the developer, this is being worked on. It is an issue that's worth noting, but will probably not keep existing. The last issue that I not personally had, but I could see others having, is the puzzles being relatively easy. As mentioned, there's some that are a little awkward, but generally a lot of the puzzles don't seem all that hard to me. If I was to actively play puzzle games a lot, it's very much handed to you in a way. That's okay, it's depending on what you're looking for, that's completely fine. And if you want to just rush through the game because you're a puzzle pro, that's I guess fine too. But I think, once again, this is just worth pointing out as a negative point for those who are concerned with that. To sum it up, RiME is an amazing game, really relaxing atmosphere, really chill visual soundtrack and everything that really makes you want to take this game in, and something that you could play on a rainy day basically. The downsides are majorly focused around the price in comparison to its short duration, so it's something you may want to consider buying maybe when it's on sale. Obviously it depends on your budget, but that is what I would take away as the biggest downside to it, whereas everything else seems to be minor and a lot of it could easily be fixed. If you have the opportunity to play this game, I would highly recommend it. It is a very, very fun game. Before we end the video, the community manager, Darius, was so nice to give me a spare code for the game. Thank you very much for that, and also thanks to Thor for providing me with access to the game. And I wanted to pass the favor on and give this code to one of you guys. All you have to do is enter the Gleam in the first comment. You do not have to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you don't want to. You just have to have watched this video, basically. And I will do all giveaways like that in the future, because you guys always forget to read the responses to your comment when you won. So I can't actually give you codes otherwise. As such, do use a valid email on Gleam, because that's the only way you will get the code. I will send it out via email. The winner will be drawn the 2nd of June, this Friday. And if you want an additional chance to win a code, I will also be giving one away on my next Twitch stream, where I actually stream RiME, aka at some point next week. With that, thank you guys for watching. I hope this was interesting, insightful, informative regarding RiME. If you enjoyed this and you are not subscribed yet, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell. It really helps me out. Other than that, see you for the next one tomorrow. SLOTH, out.